There is an ancient tension hidden inside the Hebrew language itself. The Hebrew word for bread is lekhem, and the Hebrew word for war is milkhamah. They come from the same root. At first glance, it seems strange. Why would bread and war be connected? But perhaps the Torah is revealing something very deep about humanity. In the beginning, after the exile from Eden, humanity was told that the earth would no longer easily yield its fruit. There would be thorns and thistles. Survival would require struggle. Bread would come through labor, sweat, patience, and dependence upon Hashem. That was the original struggle of mankind, not against one another, but together with the earth itself. Human beings were meant to wrestle with creation, to cultivate it, to endure hardship, and to receive bread from the hand of Hashem. But somewhere in history, something changed. Humanity discovered another way to obtain bread. Instead of struggling with the earth, people began struggling against each other. Instead of growing food, they learned to take it. If someone weaker possessed bread, land, wealth, or blessing, why work when violence could seize it faster? And perhaps this is why lekhem and milkhamah share a root. Because war began when humanity corrupted the struggle for bread. The struggle itself was not evil. Life has always required effort. But war was born when human beings turned their struggle away from the earth and toward one another. And some traditions ask an even darker question. Was this corruption entirely human? Ancient writings, extra-biblical traditions, and mystical interpretations speak of powers that descended into the world and taught mankind things before humanity was ready for them. Weapons, domination, seduction of power, pride. Whether one takes such stories literally, symbolically, or somewhere in between, they all point toward the same terrifying possibility: that humanity was tempted into believing it could take what was never meant to be taken, that strength mattered more than righteousness, that conquest mattered more than cultivation, that another man's bread could become your reward. And whatever the full truth may be, humanity accepted the temptation. We chose seizure over stewardship, power over holiness, violence over trust. We went against the design, and history unfolded from there. Empires, conquests, loot, power, violence justified by profit. Even today, with all our progress, with philosophy, religion, science, ethics, technology, and education, humanity still struggles to choose goodness. We know what cruelty is. We know what injustice is. We know what murder and theft are. And yet the world still trembles with violence. Perhaps knowledge alone is not enough. Perhaps this is why the Torah had to be given. Not because humanity knew nothing before Sinai, but because humanity was forgetting itself. In mystical Jewish teachings, there exists the idea that humanity, or at least Israel, stood dangerously close to spiritual collapse before redemption. One step further, and the descent might have become irreversible. And maybe that image is larger than one historical moment. Maybe it reflects humanity itself, civilization advancing outwardly, while inwardly decaying. Because morality was never entirely absent from the world. Noah already distinguished between clean and unclean animals. Abraham was loved because he walked in the ways of Hashem before Sinai ever happened. Human beings always possessed conscience, but conscience alone was proving fragile. Humanity had become too skilled at inventing excuses. Excuses for greed, excuses for cruelty, excuses for violence, excuses for war. So the Torah entered history not merely as information, but as revelation written openly into the world. A testimony, a line that could no longer be erased or endlessly reinvented. And in the entire journey toward Sinai, perhaps the most striking moment comes just before the giving of the Torah. Shirat Hayam, the song at the sea. There, Hashem is called. Hashem ish milkhamah. Hashem is master of war. But what kind of war? Not war for conquest, not war for greed, Not war to steal another man's bread, but the war to protect life. The war against oppression. The war to preserve humanity long enough to bring it to water, and then to Torah. Because the purpose was never destruction. The purpose was revelation. Hashem did not abandon humanity to the thorns and thistles, and he did not abandon humanity to violence either. He accompanies mankind in both struggles, the struggle for bread and the struggle against darkness. And perhaps Shavuot reminds us of something eternal, that the Torah is not merely information, not merely law, not merely religion. It is a callback to humanity itself. A reminder that power without morality destroys, that knowledge without holiness corrupts, that survival without compassion becomes war. Today, our world is more advanced than any generation before it could have imagined. And yet spiritually, emotionally, morally, humanity often still seems lost. So perhaps the Torah is needed now no less than before, not only for Jews, not only as religious identity, but as a living reminder that justice matters, mercy matters, human dignity matters, truth matters, and that no civilization survives forever without morality. This Shavuot, may every person receive something from Torah according to their own openness, their own readiness, their own journey. May we rediscover compassion in an age of anger, wisdom in an age of noise, and humanity in an age increasingly afraid of itself. And may the one who helps us struggle for bread also protect us from war and lead the world, step by step, toward peace.